8-week custom keto diet plan that will completely change your life within days. Are you worried about your excessive weight? Are you looking for ways to turn your body slim and smart without putting in too much effort? If yes, then you have come to the right place. In this article, we will talk about the 8-week custom keto diet plan that helps you lose weight without giving up on your favorite food. So without any delay, let's get started. 8-week custom keto diet plan. What is it all about? The 8-week custom keto diet plan service is basically designed for individuals from all over the world to help them lose fat and live a healthy and happy life with a slim and smart figure. There are so many remedies and diet plans available on the internet that claim to help in weight loss, but they are all old and conventional. The 8-week keto diet plan focuses to work on the extra fat of the body and helps in losing weight with a healthy keto diet. Thus, you do not have to completely give up on your favorite food items, rather you have to plan them in your daily diet schedule. The keto diet is custom-made for each individual based on their target weight goals, daily activity, food preferences, height, and weight. Scientifically researched and proven ways are used to plan each person's diet to maximize the fat-burning process with correct nutrients and calorie intake without starving them out. What does it offer? Here is what the 8-week custom keto diet plan has to offer. The plan is created and based on the expert knowledge of certified nutritionists, chefs, and trainers. The calorie and nutrient content of the meals is based on the daily activity levels and goals of the individual. The nutrition plan covers a variety of foods so that there is a wide range of products with maximum nutrients for the individual. The personal food preference of the individuals is considered in the diet plan so that it is easy for them to stick to it for a long time. The recipes are simple and cover each step in great detail. They are super easy to prepare and even a person who doesn't know how to cook can cook them. The diet plan also gives you a downloadable shopping list that you can get every week to buy groceries for the upcoming 7 days. You get to know what to eat through the simplest, easiest, and most enjoyable ways. You do not have to exercise to get the benefits. You will be able to lose weight even if you are not active. It is very healthy and totally safe to try out. We have listed the health benefits in the later section. Keep reading to learn more. You can get your money back if you are not satisfied with the results. Isn't it just amazing? What the customers say about this plan. Customers give a lot of good reviews and positive feedback for the plan. They are very happy with the customized services provided, which makes it easier for them to follow the plan in the long term. The downloadable shopping list makes it very convenient to get the items beforehand. It is amazing for them to watch the body lose all the extra fat and transform it into a slim and smart one. By following the diet chart, it is like a struggle-free activity in which you can eat all your favorite food, and still, your body will get slimmer and smarter every passing day. Reviews. Katie Thompson from the UK says that he lost 35 pounds without feeling drained. There were no hunger pangs and he felt very energized throughout his keto diet journey. Jessica Gray from the USA says that within 4 weeks of following the keto diet plan, she lost 14 pounds, which was, according to her, incredible. Gary Best from Canada says that he tried a lot of weight loss plans throughout his life and none of them worked. This keto diet plan worked best for him and felt like the fat was melting down from his body without him even starving. He highly recommends this diet plan to everyone struggling for weight loss. 8 amazing health benefits of the keto diet plan. Now let's dive in deeper to know exactly what the 8-week keto diet plan has to offer for a healthy and happy living. But first, have a look at what exactly a keto diet is. A keto diet. A keto diet is composed of about 75% of fat content, 20% protein, and less than 5% carbohydrates. The high fat content and almost zero sugar results in diminished cravings for food and you feel less hungry all the time. To get some good results from your keto diet, you have to focus on more eggs, meat, lots of green vegetables, avocados and cruciferous, and less on the keto desserts and sweets. Benefits. Now that you have a basic idea of what a keto diet is, let's have a look at its benefits. 1. Helps in weight loss. The primary goal of a keto diet is weight reduction. It does that by depleting the glycogen stores so that the body begins to burn fats to fuel itself. Let's discuss how it works. When the body's glucose levels become extremely low, it enters into the phase of ketosis. As the body uses the energy of fat cells, a considerable amount of water is released, which is great for weight loss. The fat cells then move to the liver through the bloodstream and they are processed into ketones for providing energy to the body. As long as you stay away from the carbs, you get to enjoy these amazing weight loss benefits from the keto diet. 2. Overcomes your food cravings. Keto diet helps you overcome your food cravings and you have a feeling of fullness all the time. It has been observed that people on keto diet do not crave for food and can fast most of their day. 3. Improves brain activity. When you are taking a regular diet, your brain has to work with fluctuations of energy with rise and fall of sugar levels periodically. With a keto diet, the energy levels are constant, so the overall brain activity is improved, and your ability to focus and concentrate increases. Research also indicated that ketones work as a more efficient brain fuel than glucose. Here is the link if you want to know more about the research. It also improves cognitive impairment and has shown good results in diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. The balance of essential omega-6s and omega-3s is regulated, which is great for brain functioning. The mitochondria production and ATP production also boosts, resulting in improved mental performance and a good memory. 4. Helps you feel a lot more energetic. With a regular diet, your body's energy levels are always fluctuating depending on the blood glucose levels. On the other hand, with the keto diet, you feel energized all the time. Due to a constant energy source, the body can work better throughout the day. 5. Helps stabilize sugar levels in diabetic patients. If you are a patient of diabetes type 2, your blood has high levels of insulin. As the keto diet eliminates excess sugar from your diet, it helps in stabilizing the HbA1c count and indirectly treats diabetes. 6. Eliminates bad cholesterol from the body. The HDL cholesterol that you get from the keto diet helps in the elimination of the bad cholesterol from the body. Thus, the blood triglycerides levels fall and HDL cholesterol levels, which is the good cholesterol, rises. 7. Helps in controlling blood pressure in hypertensive patients. A keto diet helps in reducing blood pressure in hypertensive patients. A lot of people even stop taking their blood pressure medicines after a regular keto diet. 8. Reduces the risk of several chronic diseases. A keto diet also helps in improving the body's defense mechanisms by improving the functioning of the mitochondria and reducing inflammation from the body. It has also shown some improved results in cancer treatment. The process of ketosis helps in utilize of energy by the normal cells, whereas the cancer cells are depleted of energy due to their dysfunctional mitochondria. You can learn more about it from this research article. How to get an 8-week custom keto diet plan. Now that you know the amazing health benefits of keto diet, here is what you have to do to get a custom plan for you. 1. The first thing you have to do is simply click here. There will be a few questions about your diet routine, daily activity, weight loss goals, food preferences, etc. Try to answer them all honestly. These answers will help in the better planning of your keto diet. 2. Once you have answered the questions, your custom meal plan will be created. You just have to enter the payment details to get access to it. 3. You have to start it as soon as possible. Just remember, tomorrow never comes. You have to act fast to achieve your health goals. 4. Follow the diet and instructions. Get your grocery list after every 7 days. Complete your 8 weeks plan and enjoy the results. Conclusion: the 8-week keto diet plan is very easy to work on and only requires you to be determined. If you really want to lose weight and have a healthy and happy life, do not wait for too long and get a custom plan for yourself. In case you do not like it, you can get your money back. So, in the end, just question yourself, isn't it worth a try? If yes, then get started and enjoy a good life. Cheers!